The bitter wind of Valthera screamed across the ice plains like a dying god, carrying with it crystalline shards that cut through anything softer than steel. Sienna Vale crouched behind a frozen ridge, her thermal suit doing little against the planet's cruel cold. Watching her target through the scope of her rifle, the alien warrior fought like he was born from the ice itself, all fluid grace and deadly precision. His blade sang through the air, scattering crimson droplets across pristine snow. 3 of her squad mates lay still, their bodies already beginning to frost over. The battle had turned ugly fast, and she was one of the few still standing. "Vale, pull back." Marcus's voice crackled through her cum, distorted by interference. "We're getting slaughtered out here." She ignored him, keeping her sights trained on the tall figure cutting through her unit like they were nothing. The alien's skin gleamed like polished pearl beneath his battle gear, and his hair, white as fresh snow, whipped wildly in the gale. Even from this distance, she could see the elegant, almost hypnotic way he moved. Sienna squeezed the trigger. The shot caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing to his knees. His weapon flew from his grasp, skittering across the ice. She was on her feet immediately, rifle raised, closing the distance between them before he could recover. When she reached him, she expected defiance, maybe even a last desperate attack. Instead, the alien warrior remained on his knees, his head bowed, one hand pressed against his wounded shoulder. Dark blue blood seeped between his fingers, steaming in the frigid air. "Get up," Sienna commanded, keeping her weapon trained on his chest. "Hands where I can see them." Slowly, he raised his head. His eyes were the color of glacial ice, pale blue with an inner luminescence that seemed almost alive. They met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch, though she'd never admit it. "I offer surrender," he said in heavily accented but clear standard. His voice was deep, resonant, like distant thunder. "Under the old ways of my people?" Sienna frowned behind her helmet's visor. "The old ways? I am Korvax Thel, 3rd son of the Thel clan, warrior of the northern peaks." He reached down with his uninjured arm and pulled a curved knife from his belt. Before she could react, he tossed it at her feet. "I have been vested in honorable combat. I offer you my blade and my oath. I will serve as your hartsworn until you release me or death claims one of us." "Your what?" Sienna kept her rifle steady, but curiosity crept into her voice. "Hartsworn, protector, guardian." Korvax's eyes never left hers. "I will shield you from harm, fight your battles, warm your nights. My life becomes yours." Heat crept up Sienna's neck, despite the cold. "That's not how we do things. You're coming back as a prisoner, that's it." Something flickered in those glacial eyes, disappointment perhaps, or maybe pain. "Then kill me now. I cannot return to my people defeated and dishonored. Better to die here, in battle, than live in shame." Marcus's voice crackled through her cone again. "Vale, what's your status?" "We need to evacuate now." She should shoot him. Orders were clear. No prisoners unless specifically authorized. The alien warriors of Valthera had proven impossible to contain, their physiology allowing them to survive conditions that would kill humans in minutes. Every captured warrior had either escaped or died trying, but something in his expression stopped her. Pride, yes, but also resignation. He meant what he said. He would rather die than face whatever shame his culture attached to defeat. "Vale." Marcus's voice turned urgent. "We've got incoming. Move your ass." Sienna made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Fine," she said, lowering her rifle slightly. "I accept your surrender. Under your old ways or whatever. Now get up and move before we both freeze to death out here." Surprise transformed Korvax's features. He stared at her for a heartbeat longer, then slowly rose to his feet, swaying slightly from blood loss. Without hesitation, he moved to her side, positioning himself between her and the direction of potential threats. "What are you doing?" Sienna asked. "Protecting you. It is my oath now." His voice held a note of something she couldn't quite identify. Relief? Gratitude? "Where you go, I follow. Your enemies are mine. Your safety is my purpose." "That's not—" She trailed off, 'cause energy blasts lit up the ice field ahead. "Forget it. Just stay close and don't make me regret this." They moved together through the frozen wasteland, Korvax matching her pace despite his wound. Twice, enemy warriors emerged from the swirling snow, and twice, Korvax threw himself into their path, fighting with nothing but his hands and the environment itself. He was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. By the time they reached the evacuation point, Sienna had 3 more unconscious warriors zip-tied behind them, and Korvax was barely standing. He'd refused to let her tend his wound, insisting that her safety took precedence over his pain. Marcus stared at her like she'd lost her mind when she hauled Korvax onto the transport. "What the hell, Vale? You know prisoners aren't authorized." "He's not a prisoner," she heard herself say. "He surrendered under their cultural protocols. He's under my protection now." "Your protection?" "Sienna, he's the enemy." "Was the enemy," Korvax corrected quietly, his eyes still fixed on Sienna. "Now I am hers." The way he said it, with such absolute conviction, sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with the cold as the transport lifted off, Valthra's frozen landscape falling away beneath them. Sienna couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just altered the course of her life in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. Korvax sat across from her, his wound finally being tended by their medic, but his gaze never wavered from her face. "You have questions," he said softly, barely audible over the engine noise. "About the oath I swore." "A few thousand," Sienna admitted, removing her helmet. Her dark hair spilled free, damp with sweat despite the cold. "Starting with why you'd rather die than be taken prisoner normally." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Among my people, defeat in battle is not shameful. But to surrender without offering one's service to the victor is to declare oneself without honor, without value. You gave me the chance to maintain my dignity. More than that, you accepted my oath. That is significant." "How significant?" Korvax's pale eyes gleamed. "Very. The heart-sworn bond is not given lightly. It is sacred, binding. Among my people, it often leads to—" "To what?" Sienna leaned forward, suddenly very aware that everyone in the transport had gone quiet, listening. "To something deeper than service," Korvax finished quietly. "To bonds that transcend duty. To ... He seemed to search for the right word in standard. "Partnership. In all ways." The implications hit her like a physical blow. "You're telling me I accidentally proposed or something?" "Not proposed. But you have opened a door between us that, once opened, is difficult to close." His voice dropped lower. "I am yours, Sienna Vale. In battle, in protection, and if you wish it, in heart. That is the nature of the oath you accepted." Marcus muttered something that sounded like, "This is going to be a disaster," but Sienna barely heard him. She was too busy trying to process what she'd just gotten herself into, and trying to ignore the way her pulse quickened every time. Korvax looked at her with those impossible eyes. The transport rumbled on through Valthra's eternal storm, carrying them toward the human base and an uncertain future. Behind them, the battlefield faded into white, taking with it the simple clarity of enemy and ally, replacing it with something far more complicated, something that felt dangerously like possibility. The human base sprawled across Valthra's equatorial zone, where the temperature occasionally rose above lethal. Prefabricated modules clustered together like metallic mushrooms, connected by pressurized tunnels that glowed softly in the perpetual twilight. Sienna had called this place home for 8 months, but walking through its corridors with Korvax at her side made it feel entirely foreign. Everyone stared. Is that a Valtharian warrior? Someone whispered as they passed. Walking around free? Has Vale lost her mind? He's gorgeous, though. Look at that bone structure. Sienna kept her eyes forward, jaw tight, while Korvax moved half a step behind her right shoulder. Exactly where a bodyguard would position themselves, she realized. He was taking this oath seriously, too seriously. The debriefing with Marcus and his superiors had been a nightmare. They'd wanted to throw Korvax in a detention cell immediately, but Sienna had stood her ground, citing cultural protocols and potential intelligence value. The fact that Korvax had refused to be separated from her, politely but absolutely, had complicated matters. In the end, they'd reached a compromise. Korvax could remain free, but confined to Sienna's quarters under her supervision. She was responsible for him. If he caused any trouble, it would be on her head, which is how she found herself opening the door to her small living space with an alien warrior in tow. Home sweet home, she muttered, gesturing him inside. It's not much, but it's warm. Probably too warm for you. Korvax stepped through the threshold, his eyes scanning the space with tactical precision before visibly relaxing. It is intimate, small, like a den. Something in his voice made the word intimate sound significant. Sienna busied herself removing her gear, trying not to think about what intimate meant in Valtharian culture. The bathroom's through there. Shower works, though the water pressure's terrible. You can take the bed. I'll crash on the couch. She turned to find him staring at her with an unreadable expression. What? She asked. You would give me your sleeping space while you take a lesser place? Korvax moved closer, and Sienna was suddenly very aware of how much larger he was than her. Not bulky, but tall and lean with a predator's grace. That is not how the bond works. Then how does it work exactly? Because nobody explained the fine print when I accepted your surrender. She tried to keep her voice light, but tension crept in anyway. Korvax was quiet for a moment, then moved to her small couch and sat, gesturing for her to join him. Cautiously she did. Among my people, he began, his voice soft, the heart-sworn bond is ancient. It began in the old wars, when warriors would offer themselves to those who defeated them, seeking to learn from their betters. Over time, it evolved into something more profound. More profound how? His pale eyes met hers. The heart-sworn serves their oath-holder in all things. Protection in battle, companionship in peace, warmth in the cold nights. It is not slavery. Both parties must consent, must trust. And often, that trust grows into something deeper. Sienna's throat went dry. Love? Sometimes? Not always. But the potential is there, woven into the oath itself. Korvax's expression softened. I am not asking for your heart, Sienna Vale. Only your trust. Let me fulfill my oath. Let me prove my worth to you. You already proved it, she found herself saying. You fought off 2 warriors while wounded, protecting someone you barely knew. Someone who shot you, I might add. A smile ghosted across his lips. You bested me in honorable combat. There is no shame in falling to a superior warrior. And you gave me something precious, the chance to maintain my honor. For that alone, I would serve you until stars go cold. The intensity in his voice sent heat through her chest. Sienna stood abruptly, needing space. I need to shower. Think about what you want to eat. We've got rations, nothing fancy, but it's food. She escaped to the bathroom, locking the door behind her and leaning against it. Her heart hammered in her chest. What had she gotten herself into? She'd accepted his surrender on impulse, driven by curiosity and something else she didn't want to examine too closely. Now she had an alien warrior bound to her by some ancient oath, looking at her with those glacier eyes like she was something precious. The shower's hot water helped clear her head, but when she emerged wrapped in her robe, she found Korvax standing by the window, staring out at the frozen landscape. He'd removed his damaged armor, revealing a form-fitting undersuit that left little to the imagination. His wounded shoulder had been treated, the blue-tinged skin around it already beginning to heal with remarkable speed. "Your world is beautiful," he said without turning. "Harsh, but honest. Like you don't know me well enough to say that. I know you gave mercy when you could have given death. I know you stood up to your superiors to honor an oath you didn't fully understand. I know your first instinct is to protect others, even those who should be your enemies." Now he turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. "I know enough, Sienna Vale." Before she could respond, her door chimed. Marcus's voice came through the intercom. "Vale, we need to talk, now." She threw on clothes and opened the door to find Marcus looking grim, a data pad in his hand. Behind him stood 2 security personnel. "What's going on?" Sienna demanded. Marcus pushed past her into the room, his eyes immediately finding Korvax, who had moved to stand protectively near Sienna. "We've been monitoring communications. Someone's been sending encrypted signals off base, timed perfectly with your arrival, and his." He jabbed a finger at Korvax. "You think he's transmitting intelligence?" Sienna's voice went cold. "I think it's suspicious as hell that attacks have intensified in the exact sectors where you've been assigned since bringing him here." Korvax's expression remained calm, but Sienna saw the subtle shift in his posture, the way his muscles tensed. "I have sent no messages. I have betrayed no truths. My oath forbids it." "Your oath means nothing to me," Marcus snapped. "Vale, you're compromised. Until we figure out what's going on, both of you are confined to quarters. No assignments, no access to secure systems. Marcus, you can't be serious. Dead serious. There's a leak, and your alien pet is the obvious suspect." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Korvax took one fluid step forward, and suddenly the cultured, almost gentle alien was gone, replaced by the warrior Sienna had faced on the ice. "I am no one's pet," he said softly, dangerously, "and I have broken no oath. But you disrespect the one I serve, and that I cannot ignore." "Korvax, stand down," Sienna ordered, moving between him and Marcus. "Marcus, get out, now, before this gets ugly." For a tense moment, nobody moved. Then Marcus shook his head, disgust clear on his face. "You're making a mistake, Vale. He's playing you, and you're too blinded by whatever this is to see it." He gestured vaguely between them. "Confined to quarters. That's final." After he left, silence filled the room like smoke. Sienna turned to find Korvax still standing rigid, his eyes burning with suppressed emotion. "I have sent no messages," he repeated quietly. "I swear this on my honor, on the bond between us. Someone seeks to frame me, to drive a wedge between our peoples. But it is not me." Sienna studied his face, searching for any hint of deception. She'd been trained to read people, to spot lies and manipulation. But all she saw in Korvax's expression was fierce honesty and something that looked like hurt. "I believe you," she said, and realized she meant it. The tension drained from his shoulders. "You do?" "Yeah, which means we have a real problem, because someone is setting you up, and they're doing it well." She began pacing, her tactical mind engaging. "The question is why? What do they gain from making you look like a spy?" "They discredit the possibility of peace," Korvax said immediately. "If I am proven false, the heart-sworn bond is meaningless. It proves that Valtharians cannot be trusted. That surrender is just another form of warfare." And if that's the narrative, then there's no room for negotiation. No possibility of ending this conflict peacefully. Sienna stopped pacing, a chill running down her spine. Someone wants this war to continue. But who benefits from continued bloodshed? Before Sienna could answer, her window exploded inward in a shower of crystal shards. Alarm screamed through the base. Korvax moved faster than thought, tackling her to the ground and covering her body with his as weapons fire tore through the room. "Stay down," he shouted over the chaos, but Sienna was already rolling free, grabbing her sidearm from where she'd left it. 3 figures in white camouflage armor crashed through the window, weapons raised. Valkyrian warriors, but something was wrong. Their movements were too jerky, their eyes unfocused. "Drugged," Korvax hissed, recognizing it the same moment she did. "They have been given berserker root. They will not stop until dead or exhausted." The first warrior lunged at Sienna. Korvax intercepted, catching the attacker's blade with his bare hand. Blue blood sprayed, but he didn't flinch, using the moment to deliver a devastating strike to the warrior's throat. The attacker crumpled. Sienna fired at the second, catching them in the leg. They stumbled, but kept coming, seemingly impervious to pain. She dodged a wild swing, her training kicking in, moving with the kind of precision that had made her one of the unit's best fighters. The third warrior went straight for Korvax, recognizing him as the greater threat. They fought in a blur of motion, all deadly grace and savage efficiency. Sienna had never seen anything like it. Their species' natural combat style was like watching a dance choreographed by death itself. "This is a message," Korvax shouted, blocking a strike that would have taken his head off. "They want us both dead. Frame me, then eliminate the evidence." The pieces clicked together in Sienna's mind even as she fought. The encrypted transmissions, the timing of the attacks. Now this assassination attempt made to look like Valkyrian aggression. Someone was orchestrating all of it, manipulating both sides. Together, she and Korvax brought down the attackers. When the security team finally arrived, they found the room destroyed and 3 unconscious. Valkyrian warriors zip-tied on the floor. And they found Sienna and Korvax standing back to back, both breathing hard, both bleeding, but both very much alive. Marcus burst into the room, his weapon drawn but lowering when he saw the scene. His eyes widened as he took in the evidence. "How did they get past our perimeter?" Sienna demanded. "This was an inside job, Marcus. Someone let them in, drugged them up, and pointed them at us." For the first time, doubt crossed Marcus's face. "You're saying someone on our side is working with the enemy?" "I am saying," Korvax said, still catching his breath, "that we are all being played. Human and Valkyrian alike. Someone profits from our war, and they will kill anyone who threatens their profits." Sienna felt Korvax's hand brush against hers, a brief touch of solidarity and something more. She didn't pull away. "Then we find out who," she said firmly. "We expose them. And we end this." Marcus looked between them, seeing something in their united front that made him reconsider. "You're really serious about this bond thing, aren't you?" Sienna glanced at Korvax, meeting those pale eyes, and felt something shift inside her. Not quite love, not yet, but the foundation of it. Trust, respect, partnership. "Yeah," she said softly. "I am." Korvax's hand closed around hers, cool and strong. "As am I heartsworn, until death or release. And I do not intend to die soon. Despite everything, despite the danger and the chaos." Sienna smiled. The war between their peoples might be far from over, but something new had begun in this moment. Something that might just be strong enough to bridge the frozen void between 2 worlds.